We're focusing on the Democrats tonight, the continued rise of Bernie Sanders, and how Hillary Clinton fights off the wave of anti-establishment sentiment that is ruling this election. There's a debate tonight, a PBS debate tonight as well. So let me start with you, Nolan. What do you? A lot of issues with Hillary's campaign right now, but do you think Bernie Sanders is really a big threat to her?
I don't think he's a big threat. I think right now, though, what he is doing is exposing her weaknesses, and I think that's worrying the campaign. It's been interesting over the last few days since New Hampshire to see how the Clinton camp has responded to the Bernie Sanders thumping. They've gone, complete Clinton here. Bernie Sanders is a racist. Bernie Sanders is a sexist. That had been a fairly cordial campaign, during the debates. They were, oh gosh, I respect Mrs. Clinton, I respect Mr. Sanders, and they've taken the gloves off this week, and they're giving him the treatment. They've trotted out feminists, they've trotted out civil rights leaders to disparage Bernie Sanders on his record in these areas. He's got to be prepared for this to get a lot nastier than I think he's used to.
But you can't discount the fact that he is resonating with a lot of people.
He's resonating with young people, which is the thing that pushed him over in New Hampshire. I mean, he got a lot of young voters out, really enthusiastic about him, a lot of young women. The gaps on the gender side of things, women 54 and over or 45 and over, being so in favor of Hillary Clinton, under the exact opposite, going for Sanders. I think those are things that if you're her, there isn't much doubt that you're going to win the nomination based on the national polls. But as Nolan points out, those weaknesses. Can she connect with young people? Can she connect with young women in a way that will get them to the polls in November, when that's going to really matter for her?
And another thing that is really hurting her is the honesty factor. When they exit polled a lot of people in New Hampshire, is that
people don't like her.
That was astounding. When
the numbers were astounding.
When they asked voters who said honesty and credibility was their primary concern, that was about a third of Democratic voters. He won 92% of that group. That suggests a real weakness in the general election. And again, what they're looking at, this is the Sanders thing, and seeing where they're vulnerable in the campaign toward November. She lost, Steve, almost every demographic group. It wasn't just young voters. Almost every demographic group,
she won
except older women and rich people.
Yeah.
I mean, she lost big with the middle class. She lost big among men.
But this is also in a state whose population doesn't look like almost any other.
The rest of the country.
So I think
which is why it's a bad thing to give Iowa and New Hampshire so much influence over this early
All right,
voting.
so then that's my next question. I mean, you look at New Hampshire and say, what does that really represent? Because if you're saying, you look at the numbers in the rest of the country, so then what was this, then do we really even care what happened in New Hampshire?
I mean, I think we care, but you got to keep it in perspective. I mean, it's not indicative of what will happen in South Carolina. I can guarantee you that. That's a much different state with a more traditional Democratic base among voters. Large African American population, more urban sort of places. I don't know what it means. I mean, I think it does suggest that she's got some problems with connecting with certain kinds of voters who are going to matter in November. Now, it won't matter as much if the Republicans nominate someone like Donald Trump. I mean, she will have a much easier time drawing the distinction between herself and him if someone like a Marco Rubio.
The bigger problem for her is the enthusiasm issue, whether she can turn her voters out in November, no matter.
Democrats will not have a problem coming out of Donald Trump as on the Republican side. I
mean, you don't know. You don't know which sort of group he's going to draw out. I think she's got to worry about enthusiasm. She's got to worry about that credibility issue. But you asked whether Iowa and New Hampshire matter. They obviously matter, because look how many candidates they washed out. I think we would be better off with.
Can't afford to stay in.
Right, because the money dries up if they lose that big. I think we'd be better off with multi-state regional primaries in the beginning.